Welcome back to our final devotional for now in the book of Psalms, where we've been anchored in the first division or book of the whole collection and focusing on the Psalms of David. On our journey through the narrative of the Bible in the Growing Disciples program, we reached the end of the David story in 2 Samuel, so it seemed like a good time to pause and to dwell on David's contribution to the Psalms. Of course, 74 of the Psalms are attributed to David, so we've really just had a bit of a taster. And yet, his prayers and songs have provided an excellent set of training wheels for our own growth in prayer, enriching our own engagement with God and our knowing of God. Today, as we look at Psalm 24, the recurring theme of the King appears. But it's not David who is presented as king. Yahweh, God, is the true King of Israel, the King of glory, and this is the emphatic conclusion of the psalm. But the scene is set in the opening 2 verses, a simple superscript of David, a psalm, Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it on the seas and established it on the waters. So at the outset, we know where we stand in the psalm. God owns everything he created, everything we can see, everything we can't see, the world and all who live in it, the seas and the unseen foundations of reality. In the ancient Near Eastern cosmology, the created spaces of earth and skies and sea, these all sit within the waters, just as it says in Genesis chapter 1 on the second day. And so translating that worldview into our own, we would call these primordial waters the foundations of reality. The point is that God made them too. Everything belongs to God, for he made it. Now, this God-centered biblical worldview is something that our contemporary culture resents. To say that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it means that I'm not the ruler of all that I survey. I'm not in the center, and I don't like that. I don't get to make the rules or imagine reality in the ways that I choose. Instead, I'm accountable to the Lord for the way in which I engage with his creation. And so, as a Christian, my care for the environment is a reflection of my love for its creator. Think about that next time you take out the garbage, or next time you go shopping, or next time you make some major purchase. We are but stewards and caretakers of God's creation. That doesn't mean that we ought not make it productive or draw from it the sustenance we need, just as God intended. No, but we need to get our perspective right. Instead of me and you, the Lord is the creator, sustainer, and owner of the earth and everything in it, and every other planet, solar system, and galaxy as well. And so, having established the authority and the supremacy of the Lord, Psalm 24 now concentrates on our relationship with God. How can we creatures rightfully approach our Creator, God? Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. They will receive blessing from the Lord and vindication from God their Saviour. Such is the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face, God of Jacob. This second stanza is held together by an approach to God. How can a human being approach God, given the disparity between creator and creature? Given God's holiness and our sin-stained history, how can we even be in his presence? Very likely this psalm was used in ceremonial occasions as the human king of Israel led a procession of worshippers into the temple as they approached worship with God, led by their human representatives. They remind themselves that one does not flippantly bumble into the presence of God. A kind of reverence and awe is required. To have clean hands and a pure heart suggests that only the innocent, the righteous, those unstained by sin, can confidently enter into the holy presence of God in order to receive his blessing. The idolater is unwelcome. The one who's allowed anyone or anything to take God's place of honour is in danger. Well, the standard for entry is very high indeed. And yet, it's a good and noble thing to seek God, to seek to be near him, enjoying company with him, as that phrase, seeking the face of God, suggests. The generation, that is the group of people, the generation who seek God's face, will receive blessing and vindication when they stand in the holy place with clean hands and a pure heart. But who actually qualifies? Is it King David as he leads the worshippers up to the temple? Is it the priesthood or the elders? Well, our journey through the books of 1 and 2 Samuel have shown us that no one, so far, truly fits that bill. Not one, as Psalm 14 reminded us. So who would dare lead the train of worshippers, those who seek God's face, into his presence? What kind of king is up to such a task? Who's worthy to take that role? Fortunately, Psalm 24 does not leave us guessing. The only solution is that God should provide that person. Only the king of God's choosing would dare lead worshippers into the very presence of a holy God. Who is that person? That king turns out to be God himself, who comes to us. Verse 7. Lift up your heads, you gate. Be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, you gates. Lift them up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is he, this King of glory? The Lord Almighty. He is the King of glory. So this great song of ascension, going up to the temple to worship, also becomes a celebration of the arrival of God's King. The ceremonial gates of entry into the temple are to be lifted up so that God's King may enter. The procession is led into the presence of God for worship, for blessing and vindication. And who is God's King at the head of the procession of human worshippers? It's not David, even though he is attributed as the author of this psalm. It's not David, but it is another king, a future king, who is the King of glory, who is God himself. Only God is strong and mighty. He is the Lord Almighty. His titles of honour seem endless, and they are repeated so much. Rightly so. But we know his name is Jesus. Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it on the seas and established it on the waters. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? The one who has clean hands and a pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. They will receive blessing from the Lord and vindication from God their Saviour. Such is the generation of those who seek him, who seek your face, God of Jacob. Lift up your heads, you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, you gates, lift them up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Who is he, this King of glory? The Lord Almighty, he is the King of glory.